Good evening. On behalf of the Ankeny Community Network and Ankeny AMOS, I would like to welcome you to tonight's Ankeny School Board Candidate Public Forum. My name is Pastor Beth Wartick, and I'm a pastor at Resurrection Lutheran Church, which is a member organization of AMOS.
And I am Rob Stevenson with the Ankeny Community Network, and we welcome you here tonight. We will be co-moderators for tonight, so we'll be opening up with a quick introduction from each of our sponsoring organizations, and we're going to start with the Ankeny Community Network, ACN's leader, Deshara Bahana.
Thank you, Rob. Well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being in attendance for this very important occasion this afternoon. I am Deshara Bahana. I am the leader and board president for Ankeny Community Network, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit that exists to establish diversity and community relationship building and inclusion within our city, within our schools, within every entity that impacts life for those in Ankeny, especially for Black and brown people of color. We have quite a wonderful purpose for being here this afternoon, and I'm sure you all are already aware, which is why you're here. So I won't take too much time. I just want to thank you for being here, and I will turn it back over to our moderators.
Thank you very much. Next I have Sue Murphy from AMOS. Hear anything?
Okay, hi. I'm here to welcome you on behalf of AMOS. And you might be wondering, what is AMOS? Well, we're a Mid-Iowa organizing strategy. We're a local nonpartisan organization that's been founded in 1996. There's an emphasis on identifying pressures faced by families and then addressing them. We are an organization of organizations. There are 41 in all in 3 different clusters. The member organizations are churches, nonprofits, they could be neighborhood associations. Ankeny's cluster includes Our Lady's Immaculate Heart, Ankeny First United Methodist, Resurrection Lutheran Church, Ankeny Presbyterian Church, and Ankeny United Church of Christ. We function by building relationships, which we call small group house meetings. And we have one-on-one conversations. And we use these conversations to identify issues that we feel need to be addressed. Then we build research teams, and then we choose how to act. Actions may involve our churches, city, county leaders, school board members, or state legislators, and more. Well, what has resulted from the work of AMOS? At the state level, the job training program called Project Iowa. At the county level, Polk County Children's Mental Health Crisis Response System. In cities, Lauritsen Skate Park in Des Moines. In Ankeny, the sanitary sewer system and stormwater repairs after the 2018 floods. And school board approval of Ankeny Schools' new strategic plan. The AMOS approach. We do clear interest, civil demeanor, and transparent action. One of the things that we do in AMOS is we always start by listening to stories or experiences. And tonight, you're going to hear 2 of those stories of situations that you might have already have occurred or you know about. But I want to be clear, our agenda tonight is for our Ankeny community and how we support our children, our staff, and our teachers. Thank you for showing up.
All right, this microphone works again. We would like to now invite Pastor Mike James and Father Michael Amadeo. They're both going to share some words with us, starting with Pastor Mike James.
I'm a pastor here in town at Ankeny First United Methodist, and it's an honor for me to be here, but I want to thank all of you for being here, candidates, for taking the bold, courageous step. Your courage and sentiments and the leadership that we have at all, and for coming tonight to represent your views, despite some static on the front end. And so that's part of the reason Father Michael and I are here, is to remind you that our repayment for their courage is respectfulness. We're going to take you at your word tonight. We'll believe the best of you. We'll ask our questions respectfully. That is our hope. A well-informed electorate is the foundation of democracy. And I just applaud all of you for taking the time to come out tonight and hear for yourselves directly from the candidates what's happening.
My name is Father Michael Amadeo, pastor of Our Lady's Immaculate Heart in Ankeny here. I'm a member of the Ankeny Ministerial Association, and on behalf of that association, we are calling on the people of Ankeny to be in constant, patient dialogue with one another. This constant, patient dialogue requires us to listen to and to respect one another, even when we disagree. Being in dialogue means getting to know our neighbors, wholeheartedly engaging with open minds instead of mistrust or outright hostility. We are grateful to live in a society that allows the residents of Ankeny to elect school officials to guide the district. And we commend all those who participate in voting, and we encourage them to understand the candidates and the impact they might have on our schools. We're also thankful for the educators in our Ankeny School District, including not only teachers, but also administrators and support staff. Education is important, and wise leaders can improve even more the learning experience of children in Ankeny. The Ministerial Association hopes this candidate forum provides an opportunity for many residents of Ankeny to gain insight into the individuals that are willing to serve our community on the school board. This evening and in the upcoming weeks, may all of us exhibit a constant, patient dialogue with one another.
That microphone's not working again. All right, so we have heard from many people how we are here to engage, to educate, to listen. And so part of why these two organizations, Ankeny AMOS and Ankeny Community Network, have worked together is because we think it's important that candidates are grounded in the community and the reality on the ground in our schools. AMOS and ACN leaders talked with about 100 teachers, parents, and grandparents ahead of this forum, also students, in order to understand what the issues were and to highlight those priorities for those who are directly involved in school governance. So we'd like to start with two stories that represent some of the many experiences we've heard, and we're going to start with Tiara and Myra sharing their stories.
I wanted to talk about the topic of bullying. My experience with bullying started with second grade all the time. I've been getting almost 5 new friends, and she started to be rude. The next school year, she started to be a bully. I remember the school year after multiple arguments and being yelled at by her, she began to steal my stuff from me. The bullying became racial. The first thing she said to me was, "You can't touch my stuff because you're black." I told the adults that I thought I could trust at school. Some of them did not believe me. I was told that I had to understand that she had behavior problems. I was supposed to ignore it. Now she doesn't target me as much, but she is targeting other
here, I'm Myra's mom, and I've lived in Ankeny for about 10 years. As a parent, this breaks my heart. Myra is a kind person who is always willing to help the next child in class. The teachers tried to help. I would get calls about what other kids did to my child, not her being in trouble. I would email, call, go up to the school to talk about it. I put Myra in therapy. I coached Myra on what things to do to help her with what was happening at school. I even went to the administration, and the only thing that they were able to do was separate the girls from being in the same class. That did not account for recess, where both children were limited on where they could go on the playground, just to keep them apart. Something was done when I explained that Myra was ready to fight this child, and I was worried that she would end up hurting her. After years of the trauma, she would have took that out on that little girl. And I threatened to have legal help to help me with the school not protecting my child. This is still my concern when they're about to go to middle school. The district has a no bullying policy, but it is not enforced. And I have a question for you, not to be answered at this moment, but I do have a question, which is, how are you going to protect all children in the district from being bullied? And thank you so much for coming, because your presence shows me that you care about this community, you care about the district, and that you take pride in becoming the elected officials. So thank you.
All right, now it's time to hear from our candidates. We have one more story to go. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Garvey, and I'm a member of AMOS and Our Lady's Immaculate Heart Church. We spent the last couple of weeks talking with dozens of teachers and school staff to share their stories about their experiences in the Ankeny School District. Over and over again, teachers shared how worried they were about talking about what's going on in our schools for fear of reprisal. That shouldn't be happening. Educating our students is hard enough work without having to do so in a culture of fear. We heard from a teacher associate. She says, I'm a teacher associate who used to work in the Ankeny school system. I left last spring to take another job, even though it's only a part-time job. The environment is so much better where I am now. I don't feel the stress and anxiety I did when I worked in the Ankeny School District. Let me share with you the differences between how child behavior is between the two schools that she's experiencing. She says, recently 2 boys got into a fight at her new school. The teacher grabbed her iPad, and in a minute, a counselor came into the room and separated the children. I've seen this counselor at work, and it's amazing how the presence of another adult figure can make a difference. The counselor helped support the child, removing them from the room to calm down and connecting the child's family to services available to help the child and help the child's transition back to school. I haven't been here long, but it sounds like there's a real effort to establish support groups for parents of children who are having learning difficulties and behavioral difficulties in school. Now, in my Ankeny school experience, when there was a problem with behavior and a kid got violent, all teachers could do was tell the kid to calm down. Teachers can't touch a child or physically engage in stopping someone from hurting themselves or others. They are told to use a body blocking method, which looks like this. I want you to imagine what it would look like with a child coming at me with flailing arms. So I have to go like this to protect myself. Often, violent kids are sent to the principal's or school's office where they are rewarded with computer time and some activity to keep them busy. Sometimes they're back in the classroom in as little as 5 minutes. Now, it's important for our schools to have behavioral and mental health services to support our kids. And it's important for educators to be able to talk about what it's like to work in a classroom. Maybe teachers and staff would feel more respected and valued. Maybe students would be safer in their classrooms. Maybe Ankeny schools would have kudos for being the best schools with the best teachers in Iowa. Thank you.
Okay, I guess now it's time for the candidates. We have 4 of the 10 candidates running for the Ankeny School Board with us tonight. We thank you for attending and making the time to both listen and speak about your priorities with us all. There are 5 open seats on the school board, 2 of which will be for a 2-year term, if you're not aware. Please note that the form, rules, and regulations that let us conduct a meaningful and respectful forum in partnership. We all strive to make the forum fair to all of our candidates, and I believe we're going to show those on the wall there so that we know what the forum looks like tonight.
All right. You have perhaps, do you hear me? No. Alas.
Sorry.
All right, we're going to pass the microphone back and forth an awful lot this evening. So you have perhaps heard a few of us use the word civility to describe how we will behave toward one another. Civility is the act of showing regard for others simply by being polite. And it comes from a Latin word, civilis, that means pertaining to public life. In other words, when we go into public life, we behave kindly and respectfully towards each other, at least when civility is our goal. And so in that, we asked you ahead of time for this, that candidates refrain from making personal or derogatory comments or remarks against other candidates or school or city officials. And then we also ask the audience, as we go through this, both for respect and also for time, that you refrain from either clapping or booing, because that will help us have our candidates have the most time to answer questions, and you can give them all a rousing round of applause at the end for participating. So, the way this is going to work, we're going to have opening remarks by each candidate. That will take about 2 minutes each. Then we will have questions that Ankeny AMOS and the Ankeny Community Network worked together to ask. Again, 2 minutes per response. If there's time in between, we'll have some questions from the audience, and we'll give instructions for that in just a minute. And then there'll be closing remarks, again, 2 minutes for each candidate.
Alrighty, we are asking that each candidate give each other an opportunity to speak and complete. We do have timers that we'll talk about in a little bit, I believe. Oh, there they are, waving, okay. And we're also going to give you the opportunity to write down. You should have received a piece of paper when you came in. You can write down your questions, and if we do have that opportunity, we will cover those.
And it's possible there's more of you than there are pieces of paper. So if you have a burning question, we have some volunteers like Sue over here that you can get your questions to. So those timekeepers up there in the front, Lindy, Matt, and Jackie, they're going to signal how much time everyone has, so you 4 see those 3, right? You know who we're talking about. Okay, great. And because we have only one working microphone, if you go overtime, it'll be embarrassing. I'll have to pass it away.
So all of the candidates, all 10, were invited to participate in the forum and were provided the forum rules in advance. 2 of the candidates that could not attend tonight did provide an introduction, which we will read each so that everybody has an opportunity to be heard. Joshua Pollock said, "Good evening all, my name is Joshua, and I'd like to thank AMOS and ACN for hosting the forum tonight. Unfortunately, my professional schedule presented a conflict where I am unable to attend tonight. Thank you all, and you will find more about me and my campaign at www.votejp.com.
And from Ryan Weldon. My name is Ryan Weldon. My wife and I have been married for almost 19 years, have lived in Ankeny for a little over a decade, and have 4 children, ages 12, 7, 5, and 3. The 3 oldest are being educated in our district. Earlier this spring, I committed to being out of town for work Monday through Thursday of this week and was disappointed when the forum date was announced, knowing I would not be in town to attend. I appreciate the opportunity to share briefly, even though I am not physically there. Out of respect for those candidates who are able to be there and a limited time for questions, I'll simply offer my website, ryanweldon.com, for everyone who would like to learn more about me. As a board member for the past 4 years and as the current board president, I have strived to focus on rigorous academics for all students, as well as treating people, conversations, and questions with respect and civility, even in the midst of disagreement. Regardless of the outcome of the election, I will continue to lead by example in that way. Good luck to all my fellow candidates, and we'll see everyone at the polls on November 7th.
Okay, now we're going to have the opening remarks from each candidate. All right, you'll have 2 minutes. Please utilize the timer at the front of the room. With the time remaining in our opening remarks, we'll start with Katie.
Good evening. My name is Katie Klaus, and I sit in front of you tonight as a career educator. I've worked in many capacities as a classroom teacher, as an instructional coach, and now as a district office administrator for Ballard Community School District. It is through these experiences that I've come to truly understand the role of the school board. That is to create a vision through goal setting, monitoring the financial health of the district, setting policy, providing transparency and communication with the public, and most importantly, keeping the central focus of the district's work on student learning. This experience, coupled with my desire to engage in public service on behalf of not only my 3 children, but all of the children in this school district, led me to run for the school board 4 years ago. I care deeply about the growth of this community and the approach that we take to address it. I believe this happens with a lens on 2 different things, access and equity. The demographics of this community are becoming both economically and culturally diverse, and the Ankeny School Board needs to be proactive in preparing for these changes. I care deeply that the Ankeny Community School District engages in a constant pursuit of its mission, to engage all students in an educational experience that equips them with the skills to flourish in and contribute to an ever-changing changing world. I hope over the next 90 minutes or so that I can convey that I'm an experienced educator, a passionate mother, and community member who's advocating for every child in our school system.
Oops. Sorry, it keeps getting stuck. Hi, my name is Shelley Northway. First, I would like to thank all of you for attending tonight. I would like to thank AMOS and Ankeny Community Network for forging ahead with this forum. My roots are deep in Ankeny schools. I myself am an Ankeny graduate. I have put 4 children through the Ankeny school system. I have volunteered in Ankeny schools for many years. I was PTO president. I've subbed for a short time at my youngest kids' elementary. I have served on the calendar committee, the facility committee. I served 3 years on the Ankeny School Foundation Board. I'm currently on the equity committee. I created VIPS, Volunteers in Public Schools, the school volunteer program that offers opportunities at all the schools for the parents, grandparents, and community members to be involved. I've also attended all of the school board meetings and work sessions consistently. I feel like I should get some frequent flyer miles for that one. I am invested in Ankeny schools. I support our teachers and the staff. I believe that every student should receive a top-notch education, Every teacher, staff, and student should feel safe in their schools. I can tell you from firsthand experience, while there is a lot that Ankeny Schools does well, there is a lot of room for improvement, and I want to help us get there. Thank you. Oh, no clapping. Hi, I'm Amber Romans. I don't love microphones. Okay. My name is Amber Romans. I'm a mother of two. I have two wonderful boys. I have a wonderful, supportive husband. I have lived here in Ankeny purposely for the schools. I have a student that has always needed an IEP and have very much benefit from that. And I want to pay that back. And I see us growing and us falling a little bit away from those core values that we came to. So that's why I decided to run. I wanted to start off by saying thank you for inviting me to be here. Thank you for being here. I want to thank ANC and AMOS for hosting this and for the community. I am also very proud to be running with each of you here. I know we all have a similar passion, and that's Ankeny students. Tonight we will be discussing a number of things that as a community we currently think are issues and questions and we have. But I want you to come out of this with exactly what I stand for. Ironically, I was going to also tell you about the fact that I had a conversation recently with a high school student about civility and how that is how we treat each other and how we talk to each other. And I want to assure you guys that I will be respectful of all board members, no matter who they are and no matter their opinion, because the students, parents, and community, you guys are watching, and we want to be role models. I do know that recently we were named the 4th fastest growing city in the nation, and with that growth, we need to make sure the school board makes fast and effective decisions that will affect students for years to come. I will be a leader that will collaborate to build trust and unity, support students, staff, parents, teachers, and students. I will work to keep the national narrative out of Ankeny schools. Parents can decide what their children read, and we need to entrust teachers to run their classroom. Help me be the change for Ankeny.
Good evening, everyone. I love the fact that they keep bringing out more chairs. First, I want to say thank you to Ankeny Community Network, a Mid-Iowa organizing strategy, for hosting this event. I want to thank Myra, Tiara, and Marilyn for sharing your stories. That's not easy to do, but we don't grow, we don't learn, we don't get better unless we talk about all the sides of our education system. Thank you to all of you, community members, that came out to learn more about each of us before casting your vote on November 7th. My name is Amy Tagliarini, and I am up here because I'm seeking re-election this fall to a 2-year term to fill a vacancy. So my spot will be a little different on the ballot, so just look for Amy T. I don't think I could ever convey what an honor and privilege it has been to serve as a member of the Ankeny School Board the last 4 years. I have had many a person say to me, "Are you really going back for more? Why?" And honestly, it was an easy decision. I love this district and I love this community, and I need to work in partnership with both of them to help me raise a daughter that will be a productive member of society and who will always lead with her heart. I'm excited about the opportunity to continue working diligently on behalf of our students, parents, educators, and community. Public education is the foundation of our community and our society at large. As a passionate advocate for quality public education, I believe it is our duty to ensure that every student receives the best possible opportunities for growth, learning, and success. If re-elected to the school board, I will continue advocating for policies that promote educational equality and provide equal access to resources and opportunities for all students, regardless of their background or abilities. I will work collaboratively with teachers, parents, and community members to enhance communication and engagement, creating a strong partnership that will drive positive change. Thank you.
Just so you all know, none of these candidates got these questions ahead of time. We're going to start on one end, we're going to start at the other end with Amy and work our way down. But then you'll each get a turn to answer first. So the microphone will just pass along until everyone gets some opportunities to be the first to respond.
So we're gonna begin with Amy T.
Hey, Amy, are you ready?
I am.
Okay. What inspired you to run for the school board, and what specific goals or changes do you hope to achieve? Are you good with that?
Yes.
All right.
So 4 years ago, when I started thinking about running for the school board, I kept saying, but my daughter's having a fine education. I don't have any problems. Usually people run for office when they're enraged about something. And after about the 6th or 7th time of saying that to myself, I thought, I don't think every student is having that same experience. And who is up there speaking for every student? Who is up there advocating for every student to have that same experience? So with the support of my husband and my daughter, that's what inspired me to jump in the race and give this thing a try. Had I known then what I know now, I still would have done it, no questions asked. My goals, my goals are, one of my biggest goals is that achievement gap that we have. When you look at our data up here, it's beautiful. When you start looking at different populations, when you start looking at different schools, it's not quite as beautiful. So one of my goals is I want to get targeted resources to the areas across the district that need them. We don't need every elementary school operating exactly the same way. Every school is different. Every student is different. So we need to make sure that we're getting the targeted resources where they belong so we can lift every student up and we can achieve at a high level across the entire district. So that's one of my goals. And then continuing to keep our kids and staff safe in our buildings. Both physically safe and emotionally safe is another priority of mine. Keep advocating for social emotional learning. Keep advocating to give teachers the tools that they need so their classrooms are safe and productive and kids can continue learning and growing.
Okay. All right, why did I want to run for school board? Well, honestly, I woke up every morning for a long time saying, somebody should do something. Somebody should do something, and then, finally it was, I should do something. And that's the honest truth. I know that there is a lot of good things we have in Ankeny. We're all very much achievers. And with that comes a lot of achievement and pressure on our students. But what I also see is a lot of gaps between all students and also a very big burnout with our teachers. After talking to a lot of teachers, I just felt like that they really feel that the board has let them down previously and that there's a lot that we can do. So that is one of my goals, is to help retain our good teachers. Because many times when we talked about why we picked Ankeny schools, it was because of the test scores, of everything else that we had when we first moved here. So I wanted to tell you that my big goal is a learning environment that fosters respect, dignity, integrity, and transparency so that you guys know what we're doing. I want to make sure that the teachers feel empowered, and I feel like that we need to make sure all students, no matter the social, economical, or differences that they have, whether it's a learning disability or anything, all feel equality in our school district. Thank you. Yeah, I can say that I get asked that question, why? Why in the world do you want to be on the school board? And the answer is because I have had to deal with the school board when my kids were in elementary school. I had to foster a relationship with the school board to get things that I needed for our school and their students and the students in the school. It had to be an open relationship, and I told him one time, I said, if you want us to believe you and respect you, then you have to be transparent and honest and not try to sell us. And it changed the way that we got things done. That is what I want to bring back to the school board, is transparency and common sense. One, I do not believe in micromanaging, which is, I think, of what a lot of is what's feeling, the teachers are feeling that they are being micromanaged. I am willing to stand up or stand for issues that I believe in, Our teachers in this district are the reason that people have moved to the district. The buildings, they may be pretty and whatnot, but they are not what makes Ankeny Schools Ankeny School District. So we have got to change our tone of how we are treating our teachers, how we are respecting our teachers, and change how we can bring them back and retain them and hire some more, because we have some big gaps. I again have been attending all of the meetings, so I am up to speed of what's been happening. With our students, each student needs to feel safe in our schools, and they need to have their educational needs met at whatever level that they are at. And then we just have to be kind. Thank you.
I didn't mean to stop
no,
you.
You're fine. You're good. I got you.
Similar to Amy's experience, our oldest child kind of cruised through school, had a really positive experience in Ankeny Community Schools. My middle child has an IEP, and as we've made our way through the school system, I continue to feel really just an internal discernment that maybe things could be better for how we meet the needs of kids who maybe aren't on the path to success like my oldest child was. And so thought about it a lot, prayed about it a lot. My husband wasn't super crazy about me throwing my name in the fray 4 years ago, but was really supportive ultimately. And you know, the last 4 years have been a very unique school board director experience, leading through a pandemic and hiring a new superintendent, and being part of approving a strategic plan is something that many school board directors never experience in their tenure, and we crammed it all into 4 years. So, but through all of that, I still feel really invigorated to continue to serve in this role. I think that there's more work to be done, and I think I have experiences that can really help at the board table. In terms of my goals, they're pretty succinct. At the highest level, I want us to continue a relentless pursuit to live out our mission for every child in our district. I want to improve student outcomes, especially as some of these ladies have spoke about, for our English language learners, our students living in poverty, our Black and Brown students. The achievement gaps are quite large there. I would like to see us improve our relationship between the school board and teachers. It's probably at the worst that it's been as long as I've known it. I would also like to continue to build out our post-secondary programming for our students so that kids can see lots of different pathways for themselves in terms of how we prepare them for school.
Thanks. Before I ask our second question, just in case you're burning with a question that you don't know we're going to ask, Al is in the back. He's wearing that sort of mustard yellow shirt. He has papers. If you would like to get a question paper from him, you can sure do that. We have several more questions, so it's possible that your question will be answered anyway. But just so you know, Al's gonna distribute those as we ask this next question. So, how can you make Ankeny a district where it's a priority for teachers to be valued and want to stay? How will you, as a school board member, support teachers? Read that again. Like, you all look very ready, so I'm going to give this to Amber.
Thank you. Our teachers are leaving because they're stressed, they're burned out, they're overwhelmed with increasing responsibilities for the job, and they have a feeling of lack of empowerment. Okay? Teachers are increasingly dissatisfied, and they're leaving the field and leaving our schools. So it's not just here, right? To battle this, we need to look for empowerment in the classroom. I think we can all agree that a teacher knows social studies way more than we can know social studies, and when the back it up or the class up because some kids are not understanding and so forth. We need better onboarding, mentoring, and administrative programs, training and development that is worth their time. And when I say that, not just training and development because check, we did it. And we need to allocate support, budget, and resources. All right, you are going to hear me talk a lot about teachers tonight. I'm just giving you a heads up. Teachers are the backbone for Ankeny schools. The reasons that we have been so highly rated in the past, again, is not because of the buildings. It is earned by those who work with our students every day. The board needs to start listening to the teachers and staff. The teachers need to know that they are supported and respected, not just by words, but by actions. And I will continue to fight for them. I will ask questions that they are not allowed to ask. I will continue to share stories that I have heard, just so to keep people aware. I have lost count of how many educators and staff that I have spoken with over this past year. Teachers are here, they're tired, they're burnt out, they're leaving the district for less pay, but more respect and support. The downward spiral of our teachers leaving will not end until we make a change, period. To make that change, we have to fight for them to have their benefits back. We have to fight for them to be compensated for their time, not only our teachers, but our support staff. They are paid beginning wages less than that at the fast food restaurants down the street. And they are with their children more hours out of the day than we are. Okay, so for us to bring those teachers back in, we have to start showing that we support and respect them. We have to act. Otherwise, people are going to keep pulling their applications to apply to the Ankeny schools. And we're going to have big gaps. And big gaps mean our students are not getting the education that they need.
I think one of the most important things that we can do is modeling to our community what it means to respect the expertise of the educators in the classroom. And I certainly can't control the public narrative, but there's certainly a lot to be said about the way that education is being degraded in society today. And that I am certainly not here to say that the experience of our teachers in our schools is not challenging, but that begins to weigh on people over time when they continue to see that in the news, and really that really feeds into things. So I think one of the first things we can do is really model for our community what it means to respect their expertise. Part of that is providing more opportunity to hear the voices of our educators. And I know the question specifically here is about teachers, but I do want to take a second to point out that Ankeny is the largest employer in the town. We have almost 2,500 employees, and 900 of them are teachers. So there's a lot of other voices that are also important for us when we think about attracting and retaining folks as well. About 80% of our budget goes towards staffing, and I think we always need to be mindful about how we allocate our resources, but that's one way that we can really send the message that we value our educators. Again, I'm just coming back to, it's gonna take time, but we need to repair the relationship with our educators, and so that starts with finding ways to hear their voice and listen to not only their experiences, but hear from them individually as well, to understand the struggles that they're going through and what their specific needs are. And then we have a responsibility to think about how do we allocate the resources that the district has in order to support teachers better.
Sorry. Reading my notes. So going last is always great because you can take notes, but then you feel like a big cheater. Because you're just like, well, they just said it all. What's left to say? So I echo Katie's. The top priority for me when it comes to staff is fixing that relationship. We had a very stressful negotiation process, and we need to heal that rift, and it needs to start with the board. We need to have better communication. Board leadership has to listen to the voice of the union and of the teachers more than has been happening. And while I think salaries and benefits are all wonderful and important, please don't think that I don't, I think supporting teachers involves a lot of things. Professional development, access to resources, emotional and mental health support, work-life balance, collaborative learning environments. There's so many things that we can do to support staff. And we have to remember that when we're supporting teachers, it's not a one-size-fits-all. Everybody's at a different point in their career, everybody needs different resources, so we need to be flexible in how we are supporting our teachers. And retaining teachers, we have to continue to think outside the box. Where are we looking for these high-quality teachers to bring to the district? The salaries bring them in, but we also collaborate with universities nationwide for targeted recruitment, and we need to continue to grow our own associates and students who want to pursue teaching. We need to foster that relationship and help them find avenues to get to that degree and bring them back and continue to be valuable assets to our district.
Thank you. Alrighty, the next question. Can you outline your relevant experience in education, community involvement, or leadership roles that you feel make you a strong candidate for the school board?
One more time.
Okay. Can you outline your relative or relevant experience in education, community involvement, or leadership role that you feel makes you a strong candidate for the school board position? And we will start with Shelley.
I was hoping for good. All right, so why me? If he didn't tell you, I graduated from Ankeny High School, and I put 4 kids through the Ankeny High School. I volunteered as PTO president. I've worked with the school board to get things done. I'm on several committees. I have been in the past, and I will continue to participate in those in the future. I have also been attending the school board meetings. You didn't hear about MIPS? You need to. You need to get in there and sign in and do it. I'm invested in Ankeny. My parents moved here for the school system. I stayed for the same reasons. I'm invested in the community, and I am invested in Ankeny schools. I believe that we can stop this downward spiral. We need to get back to work. We need to be teaching our students and supporting our students and staff. Being a leader is being able to listen and being able to communicate what you hear. I am always available. I am also a very transparent person. People ask me about, again, about running, and it was like, you can find me anywhere. I literally have my phone number on the side of my trunk. So I am available at all times, every day. Being the mom, being part of a business owner, participating in all of the committees and whatnot, you have to have that value or that skill of listening and then using your voice. And as much as it's probably not coming through tonight, I know how to do both. Oh, sorry, wrong way. Okay.
Yes.
In terms of my own experience, I was a middle school teacher for 8 years. I used to joke that I was a professional 7th grader. I have, elementary education background, and I have 2 master's degrees, one in curriculum and instruction and one in educational leadership. After I left the classroom, I was an instructional coach for 7 years here in the district, both at the middle school and the high school level. And for the last, I think this is my 9th year, I have been the director of teaching and learning for Ballard Schools. So I oversee their curriculum resource implementation, their teacher leadership program, just a number of duties inside that organization. I work very closely with the superintendent and kind of see from the inside what the implementation of the goals of the board can look like. And then in my experience as on the school board for the last 4 years, I have served on both the Facilities and Finance Committee, which is like mind-blowing experience to learn everything that goes into that. And then for the last 2 years, I've also sat on the School District Policy Committee, which is monthly. I think I have a very unique skill set that makes me, that allows me to bring sometimes what people think is an insider expertise to the school board. When I first was elected, I had a colleague on the board say to me, I was really worried about you being on the board. because I thought you were too much aligned to the inside of the system. But what I've really learned is that we are actually learning a lot from you because of your experience inside the system. And so in terms of those experiences, I think that helps me to really facilitate at the board table to help my colleagues understand what does it mean to implement the things that we are trying to set for the district. I think that perspective is really helpful.
Okay, so I started my foray into the schools on the PTO at Terrace. I am a member of the Ankeny Kiwanis, which is a youth-centered organization. I work in the nonprofit field for two small nonprofits that are centered on students and youth. I, until recently, was on the Des Moines Marathon Committee, not running the Des Moines Marathon, just on the committee that plans it. I have been a coach. I taught at AIB College of Business. Does anyone remember AIB College of Business?
Yep.
I taught sport management there. Worked in college athletics for many years. As far as education direct, I'm on various committees since I've been on the school board. Facilities and finance, it is fascinating, as Katie said. The equity committee, the school foundation, the strategic plan core team, strategic plan social and emotional. What was that one we were on, Katie? Graduate profile committee. I'm sure there's more that I'm trying to think of because I want to be on every one of them, but time just does not allow you to do that. And then, some leadership experience I have is I have a daughter that's a junior in high school. So we're starting to navigate, college and looking at all of that and what are her options. And that also is a learning experience, and having that and being able to relate to other community members that go through that process and seeing where the pitfalls are, seeing how we can improve that process. It's just another way to learn through our district. So. Rebecca, Katie, oh no.
Okay. So what relevant and community leadership experience? First and foremost, I have two boys that have almost survived their teenage years. So, yay. And if you could clap, I'd have you guys clap for that one. And so I've been the parent of not perfect children. And so I've been able to really experience that leadership of how to lead them to not be bullies, to not be a distraction, and to not only that, but be good citizens. My other leadership experience, in the last 17, 18 years, I have worked for the same mortgage company, and where I've either done leadership roles or business execution. So what is business execution to me is I'm able to organize mass chaos and bring in change. So I can make change and processes go smoothly, and which I think will really help here. I've been involved in the community. I'm very involved in my church. I not only with women leaders in my church, I also teach a women's Bible study, and I have led girls through Power Life. I'm also in an organization called Forward, which I have developed the first Iowa Forward group, community group, and these are women that are going to be leaders in your communities and how to build them up through their God-given talent. Through that organization, I have been picked as an emerging leader, which means I am one of 5 of the women in the United States that get to be through this program, in which I'm able to go through different leaderships, like I get to meet in the next couple of weeks with the CEO, the highest CEO for the American Toyota organization and stuff like that for leadership. All this means is that I have had all kinds of different types of leadership that I'll be able to apply here. I also, go band, was the band parent coordinator for the Centennial Marching Band, coordinating all the band parents. So thank you, have a great day. I'm done. I just saw time was up and I panicked.
All right, our next question is sort of an aspirational one. What are your best hopes for the future of this school district? How would your
aspirations help our students be successful academically, emotionally, and socially?
I'll do it one more time.
I will. What are your best hopes for the future of this school district? How will your aspirations help our students be successful academically, emotionally, and socially? Katie, will you start?
That's a heavy one.
My aspirations begin with every child feeling a sense of safety and a sense of belonging in the environments that they experience in our schools. If they don't feel that way, it's very challenging to experience success academically in our school system, no matter how wonderful it is. And that starts with how we build environments where kids can come in regardless of the home that they're from, but to experience that sense of safety and belonging. It's going to sound kind of cheap, but my hope is that we live our strategic plan. So when we think about rigorous and relevant academics, which is the first pillar, I want 100% of our kids being able to achieve their grade level standards by the time they're done here. I want all of our students to have some sense of a vision of what they're going to do when they leave our system, and that we've prepared them to live out the characteristics of our graduate profile. From a social emotional perspective, again, I'm coming back to that sense of safety and sense of belonging, but I also want them to be kind and empathetic citizens of the world, understanding how to interact with one another in a way that is respectful of differences, of ideas, of those types of things. The third pillar of our strategic plan is those, I believe it's around like safe environments, and really just living out the work that's embedded in that. It's a heavy one, you guys.
Thankfully, I'll have to answer next.
Okay, I promise that my answers are on my sheet. I am, again, not just copying what Katie said. My aspirations are to continue follow that North Star, which is our strategic plan, our DEI framework, and our graduate profile. There was a lot of time and energy from community members, business members, staff members to write each of those and come up with a comprehensive plan for the next 5 to 7 years of this district. We need to ensure that every decision we make, no matter how big or small, ties back to the goals of each of these initiatives. So we have to keep those at the forefront of our minds. Rigorous and relevant academics, talented people, and supportive environments are a priority. We do need to make sure each child is safe and secure in our buildings, and I know it is an initiative to have every child have at least one adult that they can rely on and trust in our buildings. And we need to continue working towards that. So every child feels a connection in our buildings, with our staff, with our district. We need to meet kids where they are, and it doesn't matter where they're coming in. It doesn't matter what they're bringing with them. We need to meet them where they are and get them the services that they need so we can lift them up and build them up to be successful students. And then we have to give kids the tools through social emotional learning to deal with things that are stressing them out, to deal with mental health issues, to set them on a path so they have for lifelong, they know how to deal with things and they don't let them escalate, and they're able to overcome any situations that they might face.
What are my aspirations for Ankeny School District? I think my aspirations for Ankeny School District is to be the school that we have the reputation to be, or were. What does that mean? Keeping the students in the forefront of our decisions. That means that we are retaining incredible teachers, that education is a partnership between the community, the students, the staff, and that we're collaborating with our partners to bring real-world learning opportunities. If you have not
gotten onto the website, which I'm sure most of you have because you're here, you're invested, but I suggest that anybody you can go and look at the framework that they have provided. If we live that out, if we make the opportunities for the diversity, the equity and inclusion, this school district can go a far, far way for these students. I really want to see a learning environment that fosters respect, dignity, integrity, and transparency so that you guys all know what we're doing. And that's what I want to see. I want to see the same school that I know has made aids, like was with my son, that literally helped him learn to eat more than 4 foods. An aide that took the time every day to make sure he tried new foods. That goes above and beyond, and it takes a village. And that's what I want to continue to see in Ankeny.
Alrighty, my aspirations for the Ankeny School District. 1, transparency and common sense on our board. Ankeny School Board should only be thinking about Ankeny School District, what is happening within our boundaries, not outside of those boundary lines. Academically, we 100% need to meet each student at their level of learning and provide them with the resources they need to achieve their academic goals above and beyond. Socially, we need to teach our children how to be accepting. We have to enforce acceptance. Well, I can't force acceptance, but you have to encourage acceptance and in every aspect. Just because we may not have all the same, look the same, we may not act the same, you still have to be accepting and kind and respectful. Emotional learning, emotionally, we just, again, need to have safety in our schools, so not just students, but the teachers themselves and the staff are feeling safe in their classrooms. Until a couple of years ago, like book bans and what bathrooms that our trans kids were using were not issues. Okay, teachers and librarians who are educated professionals decided what books were on the shelves, and trans kids were just using bathrooms that matched their gender identity. That was the status quo. And these outside groups are taking and politicizing these issues. So what we need to do is keep what is happening in Ankeny, or outside of Ankeny, outside of Ankeny. We need to think about inside of our rooms.
Thank you. Alrighty, next question is, and this will start with Amy down there. I'll come down the line, okay? How do you plan to ensure equitable access to quality education for all students in our district? So how do you plan to ensure equitable access to quality education for all students in our district?
I don't know shorthand. Okay, get my notes out here. So equitable access to quality education, I think a lot of that begins in policy. We live in policy. If we have clear, concise policies that guide our district, then everybody knows where we stand, everybody knows their role, everybody knows how they should be carrying out that role across our district. We need to look at students, again, for where they are, for who they are, and we need to give them the resources that they need, regardless of where they come from or what they bring into the district with them. We need to educate our educators on what providing equitable access means. We need to look at our biases. We need to talk about the things that are uncomfortable to talk about, because you don't improve and you don't grow unless you talk about them. And once we recognize where our biases may fall, and we all have them, we're all guilty of biases. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I have them. But once we recognize that, and we can see how that's affecting our students and how it's affecting their access to education, we can begin to make change across the district. So it's very important that we continue to provide professional development in these areas for our staff. And our staff want it. They want to get better. They want to be there for their students, and they want to ensure everyone has access to a quality education. So if we spend our resources and time educating the educators and meeting students where they are, giving them those tools to be successful, I think we can, across the district, have an equitable access to education for all of our students.
Equitable access for all students in the district. So I was one of those students. I went to a very large school in St. Louis, Missouri. I grew up as a Navy brat, moved around, and that was the one I think of mostly as home. And I was a good student. You know what that meant? That meant nobody paid attention. Why? Because I wasn't a bother. Okay, so how did we make that education equitable? Well, our world is ever changing. We need to ensure that our students will have a sound foundation education. We need to be diverse in what is taught and how it's taught. And the perspective should be expanded and relatable. All students must encompass the educational vision, ensuring safety and inclusive environment. If the student doesn't feel safe, it's a hierarchy of needs. They're not going to learn. And so we need to ensure they feel safe so that they can strive for excellence and become our success stories. Directly, we need to break the cycle of disadvantage to ensure that all students have equal access to high education regardless of their socioeconomic status. We do this by access, opportunity, and inclusion. I do know that diversity, equity, and inclusion has been quite a hot topic lately. That doesn't mean that nobody is excluded. That means we're all included. And I think that that is exactly what we need in our district. If you are struggling as a student, that we find a way to reach you and help lift you up. If you're doing okay as a student, we find a way to reach you and help lift you up. Thank you.
Equitable access to quality education. Again, education is not a one-size-fits-all. Every student is different. We need to offer a variety of learning components and learning avenues. We need to ask these questions. Do our students have access to learning after school? Do they have access to internet? Do they have the access to the library? Ankeny needs to meet every student again at their level and progress from there. Recently, I was interviewed at the Ankeny High School Intro to Journalism class. And we were talking about access. And we were talking, it was asked to me about access to books, specifically for our ESOL students who were English as their second language. But wouldn't it be great if they had access here, even if online, to books in their native language, the language that they know? And I'm like, yes, that's amazing, because there we are meeting students at their level, giving them something that they feel comfortable with, and then giving them the tools and support that they need to grow. Students need to feel seen and accepted, and in return, they will continue to grow academically. I also think it includes having experienced and seasoned teachers that can help mentor the new teachers is going to be very beneficial for our students. Helping new first-year teachers find their way of teaching with guidance and support benefits the students in their learning.
I think first and foremost, from a board standpoint, we need to make sure that the district is implementing its guiding documents. In this context, I think specifically about the diversity, equity, and inclusion framework. And what is the support for the implementation of that? I think it's about allocation of resources, and really the three primary resources we can think through is how we utilize our time with students, how do we use our staffing, and how do we use our money when we think about how do we support access for all kids. And I'm starting to see what this looks like. Last night I attended SIAC, which is a School Improvement Advisory Committee, And to hear the principals at my table talk about, as Amy alluded to earlier, for a long time, all of our elementaries had the same staffing. There was one literacy leader per building. We're shifting that staffing, and instead we are providing additional support to schools where our data says they need additional support. The school where my son goes, 1 in 3 students live below the poverty line. That's not the same in every elementary school. They're getting additional resources allocated there. I think about some of the things that we're implementing at the secondary level. At Ankeny High School, I think it's called Hawk Time. At Southview, it's called Flex Time. It's kids getting additional time to go get extra help in courses that get that additional push. So that extra support, that extra instruction. So it's about staffing, it's how we utilize our time. I also think it's about how we build partnerships with community groups. So I think about some of the contracts we've signed to bring in additional support for like mental health support for students. What do those partnerships look like outside? How are we connecting with the community as well? And then as a board, we just need to be transparent about our data and what tools we're looking at to see if we're making a difference in the plans that we're trying to implement. It's like steering the Titanic with a district this large, but we really need to stay on top of what the data is that tells us whether the work we're doing is or is not making a difference for kids, and adjust accordingly.
That's okay.
All right, so our next question, speaking of data, is what are your views on the role of standardized testing in assessing student achievement? And how would you address concerns related to high-stakes testing? So what are your views on the role of standardized testing in assessing student achievement? And how would you address concerns related to high-stakes testing? Amber, you get to lead us off.
Thought Amy wanted to. Standardized testing and high-stakes testing. I think appropriate testing is the way to go, right? But there's some tests we just have to take. What I find is interesting as my sons have got, as they get older and so forth, that even the colleges aren't taking the ACT, SAT as much anymore, and instead it's a more holistic view. And I think that that is probably the future of what it's going to be, and we need to keep that in consideration. But I think with the testing that we have now, we need to analyze the results and data-driven data, period. Those decisions from the data is what's going to help us. We're going to be able to identify who we unintentionally marginalized. We can find areas of improvement. We can see our scores and know where we can improve. We need to make sure that all students have the opportunity of having the resources necessary. And then we need to continue out our results to the stakeholders, you guys, right? And that's what the testing is going to help us with. It's going to help us with that. But I do also think that sometimes it pigeonholes students, and sometimes there's too much pressure on the student to get those high scores on those tests that we're not looking at the holistic view of the student. It's an opportunity for balance.
Standardized testing is ineffective. Students basically learn how to take a test instead of learning material or critical thinking skills. I do not support standardized testing beyond what is required by the state or federal laws. In my opinion, taking a test 3 times to get the best score does not benefit our students. Part of our graduate profile is providing students with a strong academic foundation and fundamental skills needed to thrive in the world after high school. Standardized testing is not a fundamental skill. Getting 3 chances on a test does not happen in the real world after high school. Now, do they have a place? Yes, they do. Is it the one way to test our students on what they have learned? It is one way. That does not mean it's the most effective way. So, take it as you will.
When I think about, what do I think about standardized testing? I think it's unavoidable. That is our reality. Federal legislation says that we have to give what used to be called ITBS and then Iowa assessment, and it's now called the ISAS. And Iowa law requires us to give some benchmark testing in literacy. So it's unavoidable. Much like when you go to the doctor, they're going to take your blood pressure, they're going to weigh you whether I like it or not, they might check your blood oxygen levels. Those are important pulses for your doctor to keep an eye on your overall health over time. And that is a function of some of the standardized testing that we take. We want benchmarks along the way to see if our kids are adequately progressing. That's really important for us. An analogy that I use on some of those assessments in my day job is we dump all the kids in the colander and we see who comes out the bottom, and all that does is tell us that we need to do some more digging to understand where they might have some gaps and help us make some decisions about how we might provide additional support for those kids. We also have to look at certain data like the ISAS, which is given annually, as more of an autopsy to understand what is the health of our overall system. And as a school board, that's really important that we take time to look at that data. I think something I'm really proud of over the last 4 years is we're really the first school board that started looking at data by building and by demographic groups, by socioeconomic status, those types of things. And we do that publicly. I think it's important that our community understand what are the strengths of our system and where those opportunities are to grow. But ultimately, we know the people who are best matched to make decisions about the needs of our kids are our educators. And that comes with the data that they gather on the day-to-day, whether it be tests or homework or observing their students. So it's really about balance when it comes to looking at data.
Standardized testing, like Katie said, I think is something we have to deal with because it's required by law. And you need to have, you need to see where growth is. We need to be able to evaluate and identify benchmarks and see where we're going. But we can't focus solely on the test results. Kids are assessed multiple times a day, every day by their teachers. They're in a constant state of assessment. And so we need to look at it, standardized testing as part of a holistic approach to how we are analyzing our students and charting their growth. And what we do with the data is really where we need to put our focus. So we have all this great data, we have access to this giant dashboard that you could spend weeks and weeks and weeks looking at data. What are we doing with it? Where are we identifying the gaps? What are we doing to fill those gaps? So if we have to take standardized testing, we need to make sure we're utilizing the scores that come out of that. Because we don't grow unless we are identifying the root causes of issues and then continuing to put resources at those root causes. I think that's all I had for my notes. I mean, I would get rid of standardized testing if I could, but unfortunately that's above my pay grade. So that's not going to happen. But we do have to know where our kids are, where they are going, and monitoring their progress.
Thank you. Okay, as we said at the beginning, you could fill out some questions. At this point, we're done with our canned questions. Now you're going to hear questions from the crowd. And we'll go in no particular order. I have to figure that out. Let me see who's number 7. We'll go with Shelley. All right. How are you going to protect all children from being bullied if you are elected on the school board? So how are you going to protect all children from being bullied if you are elected to the school board?
How much time you got?
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Oh, I was tasking him. All right. Seriously, bullying is something that's been happening for years. The difference between then and now is that every student has this on their hands, and they cannot, now they can just, bully you verbally, and then they can go and do it online. We really have to redo that policy. The aggressors have the power. And we have to figure out how to take that power away.
We have to figure out why these students are behaving this way, being the bullies, right? What is the cause? And we can address that issue as well. Then on the other hand, we have the children that are being bullied. We have to be able to give them the power and the tools to grow and handle the situation. Excuse me. It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a deep dive. It's going to have a lot of work and training, and everybody, from the administration office to the schools, to the parents, to the teachers, will have to be on board to make that change. And until we have to have 100%, we're not going to see a change, but if we all get together, we can make this happen. Which way do you want me to go?
Left.
Left. I did have to do this in my head. So I have a side gig hobby of taking photos, and I get to see a lot of seniors, which I love. That's part of the thing that I love most about it. And it was interesting just recently in the last couple of weeks, I got to talk to several students of several different schools, and the ones that you would think weren't bullied talked about how they were bullied at school. It is not just who you guys think it is almost every kid. And that makes me sad. I think there's several things that we can do. I think first of all, as adults, we need to stop. We need to stop bullying each other. We need to be nice, be kind. In the grand scheme of things, that's what we need to do, right? Second of all, they see this in all levels of their lives. Social media, the phone, the news, their classrooms. They're seeing it everywhere. So the big thing that I am hearing when I'm talking to kids and teachers and everything else is that they're not always being held accountable. That they don't feel like if they're bullied that anything's going to happen. So they don't do anything. They don't stand up like the young lady did earlier tonight, talked about. And I think that we need to get better as a district of finding better ways to be accountable for that bullying. We need to teach, and we need to remember that there's bullies and there's bulliers, but the hurt. So I think it comes down to mental health. I think it is a process for our counselors and our teachers, and we can all come together by making sure that we mind that gap somewhere that is happening more and more today than ever before.
Okay, this is a big one, and it's one I hear a lot. Knocking doors last weekend. I had probably one of the most difficult conversations I've ever had with a couple who answered the door and were brave enough to share their story with me. And so we've got to get a handle on this, but I think it's a multifaceted approach. I don't think it's a one size fits all. First, I'd like to see is consistency in how each building is handling bullying. I grow frustrated with hearing stories, someone has been told, and then there's no follow through. And it can't be depending on where you live in the city, whether or not your administration is going to come through and support you when you've been bullied in that building. So we have got to get better at consistency across our building. We have to follow through with every situation that presents itself. We've got to give staff the power to address this in the moment. Not removing a child and then waiting to deal with it or waiting for administration to deal with it. We've got to give our staff the power. One thing I'm very excited about in this area is my daughter started the violence and prevention program this year, which is something that was spearheaded by Ken Morris in our district. And that is, my daughter is being trained on different types of violence and prevention and bullying and communication strategies. Then they go into classrooms and they have the conversations with other kids. So it's not another adult talking to a kid telling them what they should and shouldn't do. It's kids talking to kids about what is happening in their lives, in our schools, And I think that is vital, and I'm very excited about that program. I've heard nothing but positive things about it. And then we got to give kids a path to share their stories and know that they're being heard and following through with them. And my time is up, sorry.
Yeah, I think this is a really, really hard one. In my time on the board, we've had a handful of situations that have made it to the board table that have been really difficult to hear about. To know that that's happening inside of our schools is heartbreaking, and really, as a mother, I would do anything I possibly can to prevent that from happening to any student in our system. I think we need to invest resources in teaching and prevention, and it's less about how do we create compliance and consequences. How do we teach our kids the competencies? How do we teach them how to build self-awareness, how to make responsible decision-making, how to interact with those who have different ideas than I do? How do we extend patience and tolerance to one another is a really important component of that. I think how we provide instruction is a key component. I also think I want providing opportunity, as many of these guys said, for giving kids to have a voice. I think about the TIPS hotline where kids can call and leave anonymous information about experiences that are happening is really important. I think we just ultimately really have to make this a priority from a policy standpoint to its implementation at the building level. I appreciate you hearing about consistency across our buildings. And then as a board, we need to be monitoring the data around this. What does this look like? What are the numbers that are being reported, and what is the work that we're doing in the district to try to turn this ship around? Because none of our kids deserve this. And I appreciate Shelley pointing out, it's not in a vacuum. It's not just at school. Our kids are seeing their parents bullying other people online, and our kids are experiencing a lot of it online as well. So it's going to take a village, and that includes our parent partnerships and our community partnerships as well.
All right, one more question from the audience. I keep almost calling you a congregation. I'm really sorry. All right, from the audience. After our state legislation approved educational savings accounts, also vouchers by another name, what do you believe the role of the school board is regarding advocating for public policy? So after our state legislation approved educational savings accounts, vouchers, and just in whole, what do you believe the role of the school board should be regarding advocating for public policy? And Katie, it's your turn to go first.
Thank you. I think first and foremost, we have to be advocates. We have to be connecting with our legislators, our community legislators, and we have to be sharing the stories and the experiences of our school district and how that's impacting us. As a school district, we lost approximately, Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe 85 students to educational savings accounts this year. At almost $8,000 a student, that's a tremendous amount of money that is not serving our kids in our community. And we have to then start making hard decisions. I mean, that's only after year one. It was only open to people who aren't already sending their kids to private institutions. So we not only have to be sharing the data, but we have to be very clear about the pragmatic day-to-day impact that's going to have on the resources that we're able to provide our students and our staff. That's only going to get worse. And I think that's at the board table we communicate that. We have a responsibility to educate the public about that. To be fully transparent, some of our legislators are tuning out what they hear from educators. They don't want to hear from educators. So we need our parents and our community to be advocating with our legislators to let them know how that's impacting the quality of the education that we're able to provide here. And in my mind, it's just a relentless pursuit from all angles. So how we communicate with our public, how we communicate at the board table, how we interact with our legislators. It's only going to get worse. And by fiscal year 27, the income tax rate is cut, I believe, to 4%. Anticipate the state budget, the income coming into the state is gonna reduce exponentially. That's going to cut into resources that come to our public education, period, full stop.
What she just said, because that's the truth. I mean, there's no arguing about it. We're not going to have the funds to fund our public schools. We have to speak up. We have to be loud. We have to come together and say this is why we need to stop, another way to stop the downward spiral, right? I remember when I ran. If you didn't know this, I ran 2 years ago and I didn't win. So I'm trying this again. But I was asked by someone, and we were just having a discussion. He goes, do you support, I cannot remember what the question was phrased, but it was, do you support private schools? And in my mind, hey, yeah, sure, if everybody wants to go to private school, go to private school. No, I support public schools. Public schools, public dollars go to public schools. Full stop. So we have to be loud, we have to advocate, and we all have to make sure that our voices are heard. This one's a hard one for me because I do not even understand how we have vouchers. Because public money should go for public schools. Do I believe in private schools? Yeah, if you can afford it, if it fits your lifestyle, if that's where you want to go, so be it. I'm great for that. But vouchers are a big thing for me. I will say this. We can talk all night about how I am a full support of public schools. I believe that all of us up here are up here because we do. But I will also say this. The board and our districts have started proactively already working on that. You can see those by like the Innovative Hub. That's going to attract students back to the public schools. So I hope that we can continue, and I plan on continuing those kind of amenities to our schools that will make the students want to stay here. I think the help with bullying, I think as we continue with our increased test scores, that maybe we can fight this. But do I believe in vouchers? Absolutely not. But I do believe in our public schools, and I believe that those students will eventually come back because we have what they need, and that is this community.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be up here. Well, you'd be surprised if you weren't a supporter of public education. I think as a board, we have a responsibility to make a statement that we are supporters of public education. Also something you wouldn't think would be too difficult to do. We need to talk about, like Katie said, what it means for our district. And you hear what's the big deal? You're not paying to educate that student anymore. Well, about 40% of our costs are fixed costs. We still have to turn the lights on, regardless of how many kids are in the building. We still have to turn the heat on. If somehow magically 25 first graders all from the same school left, yes, we might be able to cut back on staff, but it's not gonna break that way. So when you hear the argument that, what's the big deal? You're not educating the child anymore. The costs are still the same. The costs are still bared across our district. And so when we lose that funding, it will chip away, and the board will have to make tough decisions. We need to just continue using our voice. Everyone continue using our voice and standing up for public education. Because as you know, public education is the great equalizer. And so we need to continue speaking out and speaking up and advocating for our public schools.
Just want to check, do we have any more questions that you're bringing forth? Okay.
All right, we do have one last question. It's a yes or no, so I'm going to continue holding on to the microphone instead of passing it back and forth. If you are elected, are you willing to meet with the Ankeny Community Network and/or AMOS for further discussions about these issues?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, that was 4 nods simultaneously.
Yes.
All right, and now we're going to give each of you 2 minutes for your closing statement. And at this point, thank you so much for graciously holding your feedback as we gather for this evening. I think in gratitude for these folks and their time, feel free to applaud so we're going to start with Shelley, and you've drawn the first. So 2 minutes. Seriously. All right, in case y'all didn't know, my name is Shelley Northway, Ankeny School Board candidate. Thank you all for attending. I didn't write anything down to make a closing statement. I will just say again that I believe in our Ankeny schools, and I know that we can accomplish great things, but we have some big work to do to get there. We have to get our teachers our schools fully staffed with our teachers and associates. We need to change our views and how they are looked at. They need to feel supported. I don't know how many times I can say that. They need to feel respected. Our students, again, need to feel safe in our schools. Our teachers need to feel safe in our schools. We need to work on retention of our teachers. I would just appreciate if you have any questions that you come directly to me. If you want to know where I stand on certain issues, I'm, like I said, very open and transparent, easily available, easily accessible, and I would appreciate your vote on November 7th.
I would be remiss if I didn't tell you my inspiration of why I feel education is so important. All right, my father was a Vietnam vet and worked 37 years in the military. We moved around, and I will tell you that we had a small stint after he retired in Iowa, because this is where my parents grew up. And when I was in California, they all said to me, "You're gonna be behind." Because Iowa's education, they know how to do it. Okay. And then I moved back to Missouri, and my dad went back to school, and you know what he did? He became a school teacher. And I went to classes with him while he learned how to be a school teacher. And then I even dreamt of being a school teacher myself. It did not work out as planned, but I still have that love for education. Why am I telling you this? Because I truly believe that our education can get back to that time where I came, and it was a struggle. Those teachers that surrounded me in Iowa surrounded me and got me not only back to par, but above, so that when I went to Missouri, I know you guys make fun of me, that I would, be good, and I became a lifelong learner. I love school, I love education. I want to leave you reminding you that just what I believe in. Collaborate to build trust and unity. Support students, parents, teachers, and staff. Keep the national narrative out of Ankeny schools. Parents get to decide what their kids read, and trust the teachers to run in their classrooms. And please, I would love your vote on November 7th, but most importantly, vote on November 7th. Thank you.
Over the past 3 years, we've made great strides in enhancing quality of education in our district with our strategic plan, DEI framework, graduate profile, and the innovative secondary hub. All of this is wonderful, and I am proud to have been a part of each of those decisions. But we continue to face some of the most difficult challenges to public education in decades. We still have a lot of work to do, and I firmly believe that my experience, dedication, and passion make me the ideal candidate to continue these efforts. You all know I'm passionate. You all know I'm emotional. My voice cracks when I speak at meetings. I raise my voice at meetings. I'm excitable and the arms start going, as they are right now, and I get lost in my thoughts sometimes. But it's all because I care so much for this community and for every child family, and resident that calls Ankeny home. I love Ankeny Community Schools, and I'm so proud to have a daughter that will call this district her alma mater one day soon. But you can love something and want it to get better. And that is why I'm running for re-election this November. I want Ankeny schools to get better for everyone. And you all can rest assured that when I say everyone, it's not a platitude and it's not me saying something I think you want to hear. I mean everyone. I don't care how a student looks. I don't care how a student loves. I don't care how a student learns. And I don't care how they pray or they don't pray. If you are a student, staff member, or community member in Ankeny, I am working to make this district better for you, so I please ask for your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
Before I begin, I do want to thank both of these organizations for hosting this. I really appreciate this opportunity to connect with the community. It's really important. As I was preparing for this, I did what any middle-of-the-road student would do. I pulled out my introduction and closing statement from 2019 and took a look at it from the starting place. And as I read my closing statement from 2019, I realized I still carry the same passion. So what I'm sharing with you today, if you perhaps have that memorized for 2019, is very similar to what I shared then, because it's how I feel. Ankeny is a community that draws families because of its reputation for excellent schools. And we have much to be proud of for our educational system. We have the best teachers in the state. I have no doubt about that. But we must continue a relentless pursuit to get better. We, like many schools across America, still experience achievement gaps for students in poverty, for students who are English language learners. That population in Ankeny has grown 2,600% in the last 10 years. For students with IEPs, for our Black and brown students, especially the boys, they are lagging very far behind. These types of data underscore the absolute priority it is for Ankeny schools to provide programming, regardless of your zip code, your ethnicity, your economic circumstance, that helps our kids develop the skills and habits of mind necessary to continue learning beyond our school system. Whether that's trade schools, apprenticeships, community colleges, four-year institutions, whatever career path that looks like for you. It's a priority for us to prepare our kids for those opportunities that open up doors to economic security. These are the people who are going to be taking care of me in 30 years. And more importantly, opportunities to contribute positively to this community. I want my own 3 kids, Brady, Charlie, and Jack, I see it, guys. I told you I was going to not pay attention to that. I want my own 3 boys to graduate with confidence in themselves and a vision for their future. And I want that for your kids too. So I'd ask for your vote on November 7th.
Okay, on behalf of the Ankeny Community Network, as well as Ankeny AMOS, I would like to thank our candidates for joining us this evening, and to the public for your attendance this evening. A reminder that the election is just around the corner, Tuesday, November the 7th. Just 2 weeks. To find your polling location, you can go to the Polk County Auditor's website or the Secretary of State's website. The polls will open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. And if you want to get more information about the Ankeny Community Network or Ankeny AMOS, I believe we have sign-up forms that we can pass around. But thank you all for coming out tonight. This means a lot to the ACN as well as AMOS, and thank you, Pastor Beth.
Can we add one more thing?
Yes, one more thing.
Early voting is also open downtown at the Polk County Elections Office. So if you can't make it on...
You can vote now.
Yes, you can vote now.
Alrighty. So thank you all for coming out this evening, and there's going to be a time for the candidates to mingle with the crowd. Alrighty, be well.
This candidate would like to do this sort of a background.